So Ben Reilly's new super identity, known as Chasm, and Kaine Parker's Scarlet Spider goes head to head in a final battle, as they decide their fate being two of the spider beings of New York currently. And speaking of New York, we move over and pick up in Queens, where we see a small army of underground vermin attacking the city at large and the civilians, which of course this army is led by Mole Man, who in turn is being mind controlled by the Eternal Druid. But we see on the scene currently the spider team, the Scarlet Spider, Ben Reilly as Chasm, and Ben Reilly's girl known as Hollow's Eve, the only ones here trying to stop and protect the citizens. But it seems like the only person here really focused on helping the civilians aspect of it is the Scarlet Spider. As Ben Reilly here, he isn't too much of a good guy and only really pursues what is in his best interest now, as he fully intends just to leave all these people to their fate and possibly die so he can go get revenge on the Eternal Druid for previously messing with his mind and taking control of his life. And Chasm's decision makes it worse for everybody here, as we see the Scarlet Spider can't do it alone. There's just too many foes and they're just too powerful. But still, like I said, Chasm, or Ben Reilly here, the clone of Peter Parker, doesn't really care. And the only person he does care about is Hollow's Eve, his partner in crime here, as he stops in the midst of his giant battle to talk to her and try to make up, as previously Druid the Eternal took control and made him fight her. But now that he has somewhat control of his body and clarity of mind, he goes on to tell her that yeah, the Eternal got him good. He got in his head and messed him up, even going as far as to making him hurt her. And he vows not only to never do that again, but also to get revenge on him for it, as they literally kiss and make up as civilians in the background are being trampled and possibly even murdered while these previous heroes are doing what they do. And right after this, in my opinion, we see something really cool, because as another giant enemy enters the battlefield, we see an example of Chasm's special power set. As you see, he doesn't have a normal spider sense, no, he has an offensive spider sense. So unlike Peter Parker, whose spider sense warns him of any danger or upcoming hurt, Chasm's spider sense, which he just calls Chasm sense, literally inflicts damage and pain reflectively instead of warning him of it, which is a pretty cool deviation in my opinion. But this giant foe that has finally arrived on the scene is another giant kaiju, led by Mole Man himself this time. And you know, maybe Chasm could do something because he does have the proportionate powers of a spider, but even he has his limits. He isn't all powerful, he's no Thor or Hulk. So taking down this big beast is a tall order, but a tall order that Hollow's Eve seems to have a solution on, as she pulls out some sort of monster mask out of her bag in which she can take the powers and transform into different creatures and entities based on the mask she wears. And as she puts it on, we see it's literally a Godzilla mask, as she herself turns into a giant kaiju. And I mean, like, come on, least obvious plot armor power ever. Like, she just has every mask for every occasion in her bag. Next thing, what, she's just gonna pull out a one above all mask and just become omnipotent. But we do see her stall this giant beast, as Chasm is able to get away looking for Druid for revenge. And even though Chasm is looking for Druid, it seems another spider found its way to him first, as we see Kaine Parker, the Scarlet Spider, has been beaten, captured, and kidnapped and brought to Druid himself. Because Druid, throughout this entire confrontation and story, he doesn't really have some grand evil master plan of world domination to do with the Spider-Man here. No, he's really just bored with his long lifespan and just wants some entertainment. And for now has latched on to the spider clone drama. As Druid goes on to say and explain himself, yes, your brother Chasm is on the way, but he cannot truly hurt or kill me in any way that really matters, so when I get tired of the situation in this game, I will simply leave. But him revealing why he brought Kaine here, the Scarlet Spider, in the first place, explaining that it would be terribly unfulfilling for Chasm to not fight his other spider clone and essentially brother with all of the resentment that they have for each other. And with Kaine not having too much of a choice here, he essentially just has to fall in line. But as we see when Chasm finally swings in and arrives, he isn't just going to start guns out and attacking him, he's going to try and talk things over. But unfortunately, Druid is a powerful telepath, meaning in reality what is the Scarlet Spider seeking a peaceful approach, Druid is casting illusions that it is himself, making Ben Reilly see absolute red, because this is the man who he wants his revenge on. So as he lunges for Kaine, he is not holding back, he is trying to attack with all of his might and possibly even kill Druid, who in reality is the Scarlet Spider. And as he is forced to defend himself, he gets his head in the game and starts to fight back. But Chasm here is plenty powerful himself, he doesn't just have the base abilities of a spider person, no, like I've said and you've seen before, he not only has an offensive spider sense, but he can also make pretty cool energy constructs, as he makes an axe getting ready to cleave the Scarlet Spider in half, shouting that he is going to kill him. And in this fight right here, he is doing a pretty good job of showing it, as he is able to land an attack, wounding the Scarlet Spider, making him bleed. As with another lunging attack, he impales his axe into his shoulder, but the Scarlet Spider, being a pretty good and strategic fighter himself, he takes his opportunity to retaliate, webbing Ben Reilly's head and pulling him close, slamming his head onto the same axe. attacks. But no, it doesn't hurt or kill him or anything. The energy blade has a pretty different effect on Ben, because as you see, it seems the energy from it overloaded his mind, separating Druig's control from Ben Reilly, finally giving him his autonomy back. And for the first time, we see this attack even being able to hurt Druig, which is no small feat as he is an Eternal himself. And Druig, thinking this is not fun anymore, he has finally had enough of spiders or anything spider related, as while he is in the tunnel system, he encounters a pretty giant spider, and at that he snaps and just has enough, giving up on his little quest for enjoyment with the spiders and just leaving them to their own devices, which is a pretty anticlimactic villain end for the story, but hey, it could be worse. But back on the outside, with Druig finally being out of Ben's mind, he now has full clarity once more, with Kaine going to explain to him the entire situation of Druig being in his mind and the illusions. He not only helps the wounded Kaine up, but even brings him up for a hug, which is no small thing as these two aren't really the best of pals and have a pretty rocky relationship at best. But unfortunately, this kind of wholesome moment is soon interrupted by one of the giant beasts from before, the same one who was able to take the Scarlet Spider in a fight, but now with two spider beings, this might be a pretty easy fight for the duo, if they ever got to fight him that is, as instead of a battle, we see a giant foot come down and just smush him into a smear on the pavement. And of course, that was Hollow's Eve still in her giant kaiju form, which we can assume she won the battle against the other kaiju and is now here, with them of course embracing now that Ben is finally free now. But of course, Ben's now freedom from Druig's control doesn't eliminate the giant invasion of these underground creatures attacking a bunch of citizens roaming the streets of New York, with Kaine saying that they have to get back out there and help save people's lives. But Ben Reilly isn't still a hero per se. Now, he isn't a straight up villain, but right now he isn't going to help save people. He is going to go his own way now that he is free to enjoy himself, which is pretty selfish but on brand for this new anti-hero Chasm, as these two spider clones say their goodbyes and split their own ways, with Kaine even saying, "No offense, but for both our sakes, I hope we don't see each other around next time. I'm not sure we could even survive another get together." And later, with the Scarlet Spider helping clean up the city, we then see him go back home to his apartment, as he meets with some of the owners there to find out the vermin, just like roaches, are pretty hard to keep out once they get infested in, meaning Kaine here is now due for a pretty extensive citywide cleanup of these vermin and creatures. And moving over to Ben Reilly and his girl, we see them discussing what are they going to do now that Ben Reilly finally is free and has his mind back. How are they going to proceed forward? And in a bittersweet moment, this story and comic ends with Ben saying whatever they want, insinuating that even though throughout this entire events of this story, he essentially went back to square one, still being the same selfish anti-hero that he was at the beginning. Instead, now he's doing it over his own free will instead of the control of somebody else. So yes, that was the entire Chasm Curse of Kaine storyline. What did you think of it? In my personal opinion, while I did think it was pretty interesting at some parts, and we finally got to see the Scarlet Spider come back, which if you haven't already and you're a fan of Spider-Man or Spider-Man related characters, I highly suggest you go read the Scarlet Spider solo series. It is so good. But with his return, it opens the door for him to come back, and with Ben Reilly, he's kinda back to square one, which for a solo series, it's pretty weird and anticlimactic, how almost nothing changed from beginning to end. But of course, if you did enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like, or subscribe if you're new and want to see more of this type of content. As always, this was the Hero Informer, and thank you for watching.